Hey guys, and welcome to Call Center Chronicles. We are in season 3. We are on episode 6. Yeah, this is episode 6. I get so excited. Okay, so we're on episode 6. You guys know that this season is dedicated to the future of work. So I am super excited. I told you guys last week that I had an amazing guest for you, and I always deliver. Okay, but before we hop into this week's show, I want to kind of catch you guys up. If this is your first show that you're tuning into, I want to catch you guys up. So remember, week 1, we headed over to San Ramon. We talked to 5-9 over in San Ramon. We talked to Janefa. We talked to Trisha, Kimberly, and we really talked through how the employer and employee relationship is changing and how that dynamic is changing and how they envision that being the future of work. We also talked to Televerde Foundation. We talked to Michelle Sirocco, which is a prison ministry that helps get women back integrated into the workforce, and how they're doing that, how they're being innovative and thinking outside of the box. Amazing show. You have to go check it out. Diversity Window. Now, y'all know I love this show, okay? Diversity Window, we talked to the CEO, Jaquanda Nelson, and she had an amazing concept around shared work that I thought was so fantabulous. You guys know I make up words. That's one of my favorites, fantabulous, around shared work. So if you did not catch that episode, I highly encourage you to go back and catch it. Week 4, we talked with Uber. We talked to Tatiana. She is the global head of workforce management over at Uber. Absolutely amazing show. And she had a lot of different ideas around diversity and how diversity to her may mean something completely different to her counterpart or her Indian counterpart, and how that's so important that we raise our consciousness as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and make sure that we're being diverse in our thought around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I absolutely love that show. Week 5, right? Before I dropped into the show, I had made a post about how companies have to really be more innovative when they're thinking about what diversity means and how they're getting diverse hires. And one of the things that I'm always saying is, while hiring from HBCUs, I believe, is a great start, that's not the end all be all, right? Just because you have a program, your company, and you say, hey, we're super diverse, we're super advanced in our diversity metrics and equity and inclusion metrics because we hire from HBCUs. Well, I have news for you. Not everyone's going to a HBCU, right? And that is not the end all be all for having a diversity and equity inclusion program. And so I had some thoughts around that. I got great feedback. I got other feedback. So I either get great feedback or other feedback. That's how I classify my feedback. So I got great feedback and other feedback, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that. How can companies be more innovative in their approach to developing diversity, equity, and inclusion programs? I have some tips and tricks for companies, around, leveraging transferable skills, working with community partners that are already developing this talent, having niche programs, right, that are focused on the type of hires that you're looking for. And then not only developing the program, but making sure that you actually elevate and pull people from that program, promote them, give them the roles, right? I've talked to countless people, employees that said, hey, I was in a DE&I program, or I was in a program for Hispanic leaders, developing Hispanic leaders, or developing African-American leaders. And I went through the program, this leadership program, was in it 6 months, was in it 18 months, but I never got out of the program. It was just a program. They never actually promoted, not just me, but they never promoted or advanced anyone from the program. And so it's not enough to just create these programs. We actually have to be doing something, right? Pulling people from these programs and developing that leadership skill set so that diversity is not just at the front line. A lot of times when companies say that they're diverse, what they really mean is that their frontline employees are diverse, but their leadership is not diverse. But I'm going to leave that there. Okay. I'm going to leave that there. Okay. So if you haven't been following the show, I just caught you up in 5 minutes. Okay. I tried to do it in 5 minutes. Okay. So those have been our last 5 shows for season 3 and this season we're talking about the future of work, what that looks like. Where does diversity, equity, inclusion play a factor in that? Where does technology play a factor in that? And so without further ado, we have an amazing guest this week, okay? I promise to deliver on this. We have Valencia, okay, from Best Buy, a leader over at Best Buy that I want to have an amazing conversation with. So I want to introduce her. Thank you so much, Valencia, for being with us today. Thank you so much for being on the show. Can you tell the people more about your role and more about what you do over at Best Buy?
First, I want to say thank you so much for the invitation, Juanita. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I've been chopping at the bits to get on the show. Get me in. Yeah, you used to call me Valencia Taylor. That is my name. I go by Val Taylor. Anyone who knows me in the business world will know me by Val Taylor. Hi, everybody. I'm currently a senior director over at Best Buy. In fact, I'm responsible for Best Buy's customer care organization. And so I'm currently responsible for 8 to 10,000 internal and partner representatives. And our job is to manage inbound calls, chat, and social media. And so a big responsibility, but love the work that I'm doing.
Amazing, amazing. Yes, I'm super excited. I was so amazed and I want to know more about your story. So you have to tell me how do you know whenever I meet Val, whenever I meet people that are in the contact center, right? And I don't know, this is just my awkward thing. You know, everybody has their thing, right? Some people collect turtles and frogs and seashells. I collect contact center stories. And so whenever I get a chance to meet someone who's been in the contact center for any period of time, I'm always interested, like what was your journey to the contact center? How did you get into the contact center? Why are you still there? You know, what was it about it that made you say, I got to stay here? So tell me more about how you got involved in the contact center. How long have you been at Best Buy? Tell me more about your story.
I sure will be happy to talk about it. My story is a funny story. And, you're not trained to go into call center, right? We just sort of fall into that role. And that's what happened with me. I just sort of fell into call center. But my journey started when I was 16 in call centers. And I begged my mom to let me get a job while I was in high school. And there was a company up the street, and I'll never forget the name, called Ramco Heating. And I got a job at Ramco Heating in their call center. And my first job was making outbound phone calls, selling furnace cleanings. And yeah, can you believe it? Selling amazing. And the funny thing about it is that was my first experience working with customers. And I knew then that's what I wanted to do. It's like I love that job so much, and that's what I wanted to do. And my entire career has been in call centers since then. I've never had any other job other than working in call centers.
Wow, that is amazing. So you tell me, you went from customer service doing furnace cleaning sales. I got it. That's a tongue twister. So you got to say that one slow, right? So you went from doing sales of furnace cleanings to being a senior director over at Best Buy. I'm sure it's a lot that transpired during that time. So give me as much or as little as you can.
Actually, it's 40 years that's transpired in between that time. I'm currently at Best Buy. Prior to Best Buy, I worked for AT&T for 21 years. And working at AT&T, I did almost the same thing I'm doing now, but just I'm doing it now on a larger scale. I managed AT&T large call centers and worked with their vendor partners. And I did that my entire career. I was at AT&T for 21 years. I retired last year, and I spent my entire time with AT&T in their call centers, managing the mobility sales and service. I was able to launch a business with AT&T. They had a business that was their home security, home automation business. I was able to launch that business from the ground up. And so I was afforded just a lot of wonderful opportunities just by being good at connecting with our customer and driving results in that space.
So tell me, so again, nobody wakes up and says, "Hey, I want to work in the contact center," right?
Mhm.
Like they either fall in it some kind of way, like, you were doing furnace cleaning sales, right? I was working in a call center. So my first experience in the call center was I was taking customer service calls for, you may remember Mall of America. Well, Mall of America, they had these Simon gift cards.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
I was doing balance inquiries for the Simon gift card. Okay. So, and so I was handling that. And while handling that, I picked up a book called Blue Pumpkin. Okay. So I picked up that book called Blue Pumpkin, and then the rest is really history, right? So I picked up the book called Blue Pumpkin, and I said, man, I really want to learn more about workforce management. And that's actually was my real experience with, becoming that WFM girl, as I'm commonly referred to, or the contact center whisperer. But nobody really wakes up and says, hey, I want to be a workforce manager. I want to be a senior director. So tell me, when did you know, like, what was it for the contact center that made you say, this is where I'm going to stay?
My friends were working when we were in school at McDonald's, they were working at the mall. I was working in call center. And I had the luxury of, when I graduated high school, I went to Sprint and I got a job at Sprint. And, I went for the money. It's amazing, but it's like they're paying pretty good. I'm experienced talking to customers. I went
Mm-hmm.
for the money. And it was a leader there that saw something in me and they wanted to invest in me. And so they put me through a training program. And by 23, I was a supervisor. I had the opportunity to hire my sister. And at 23, being able to hire and fire, I mean, oh my gosh, I thought I was just the most amazing person in the world. Now we can't hire relatives today. So, things have changed since way back then. But it was just a wonderful opportunity. And just because that individual, that my manager took that kind of interest in me, I loved the space. And so every other job that I applied for, I knew I wanted to be in call center. I wanted to help customers. I wanted to be responsible for meeting metrics. I love that fast paced environment.
When you think about, with so much longevity in the contact center, right? And
Hmm.
being able to move from agent to supervisor to, now running, global teams, right? What do you think the future of, when I say future of work, what does that mean to you?
The future of work means, how will workers and work evolve? There are three different things I think about when you talk about the future of work. I think about how work will be done,
Mm,
where work will be done,
mm,
and who's going to do the work.
that's good.
Yeah, the first one, when I think about how work will be done, what type of automation are we going to use? Because that's what it's all about. Everything, you may as well, everything, this paper, everything, throw it off. Everything is going to be automated. So, how will the work be done? And then I think about who's going to do the work. Where will you sit? I mean, who is the person that's going to, will it be a robot doing the work? Will it be a human? Will it be someone offshore? Who's going to do the work? And then you think about, where's the work going to be done? Where will
Mm,
that person sit? Where will they be located? Will they be co-located? Will they be in
that's
a
good.
locate? Yeah, it's just a lot to think about when you think about the way we're working now and how differently it's going to be in the future.
That is so good. I don't think I've heard anybody say the future of work like that.
Hmm.
Thinking about it and breaking it into those three categories, where, how will work be done, who's going to do it, and where will it be done from? Because those are three vast different, dynamics. When we think about, okay, how will it be done? What parts will
Hmm.
be automated? What parts still need to have manual intervention? Who's going to do the work? Is this going to be a human that's doing the work? Is this going to be a virtual, assistant or agent that's doing the work? Who's going to do the work, and where will it then be done? Will it be remote? Will we go? That's a conversation that's happening right now. Will we have hybrid? Will we have on site? Will we be completely remote? Will it be a combination of the two? Hybrid again, so that is that's a big point about the future of work. Those three different dynamics, I think, when we think about, when we say future of work, what does that look like? Who's going to do the work? Where is it going to be done? How it's going to be done? That's really good. tell me, so when we think about how it's going to be done, where do you think technology plays a factor in in the future of work?
The first thing I'll say about the future of work, and then I'll answer your question, is if I was a CEO today, I would be really worried because you have to be making some bold decisions,
Mm,
right? I read a study, and the study said that 85% of the jobs in 2030 will be new jobs. No one knows what those new jobs will be yet. So imagine being a CEO of a company and you're not trying to just get through today. You have to plan for the future. And how do you plan for a future for jobs that you don't know will exist?
yeah. I was over at 5 9, and we were talking about, when we were talking about the employer and employee relationship changing, we were talking through, how much will be human, how much will be automated. We're also talking through how, you'll have some employees that are actually employees, you'll have some workers that are gig workers, so that dynamic is changing so much. And if you have gig workers and they're contractors, right, then that means, they could be doing partial pieces of the job. So instead of having traditionally a CMO who was in charge of all of marketing, all of the strategy, you may have a fractional CMO who's just responsible for doing a part of that job, right? And so now, to back to your point,
Mhm.
having a role that I didn't even fathom existed, because we were just used to having CMOs, right? We
Absolutely.
don't have CMOs
Absolutely.
anymore. We have, 3/4 CMOs. That's a real role now, because of
Right.
automation, right? Or customer service reps. We don't have customer service reps anymore because the role has now morphed into something different and it's a new job,
Absolutely.
so that is, oh, that's so
That
good.
it is something because you really think about it, and I say the simple jobs will go away. And I don't mean that any job is so simple that anyone can do it. There are some jobs out there that's really task oriented and they will go away, right? The taxi drivers. Even when you think about the accountants, jobs where you don't have to have show empathy that can be done by a robot or a computer will likely be gone. And so we really need to think about what type of education do we want to get? What do we want our education to be in? Do we hire from trade schools now? I mean, the future of work is leaving us asking a lot of questions, and there are a lot of answers we just don't have.
Man, that's so good. There are going to be so many different new jobs that
Mhm.
don't exist today, right? The
Absolutely.
traditional CMO won't exist. It will be something else, right? The traditional
Absolutely.
customer service role won't be a traditional customer service role, or
Mhm.
it'll be tasks that are different. That's so good. Tell
It
me,
is.
where do you think, so we know where we think we know where technology is going to head into that,
Mhm.
right? So, or did we answer that? Did we answer that? Did you answer how technology plays a role into the future of technology?
I did not, but let me tell you how it plays a role, and you can see it even today.
Mm,
You go to a hotel room, there are some hotels you need a towel, a robot delivers it to your door. You go through a drive-through, you want to place an order for your food, a robot is taking that order.
yes,
There's
I
a
had that experience last week.
Hey, you go to a bar and you want a drink, you're able to punch out what drink you want, put your glass there, and the drink will fill in the glass. So how is automation going to take over some of these jobs? It's quite simple. Jobs that doesn't require you to think are going to be eliminated because a robot, the one thing they don't have to do, they don't have to think. You give them a task and they do it. Now, someone will have to, when I gave the hotel example of the towel being delivered to your door, someone has to put that towel inside the robot. But the robot gets on the elevator, comes to your room, you open it, you get the towel, you shut it, and they go away. And so it's just going to be amazing. You're talking about Jetsons, and some people may not remember Jetsons, but if you
I
remember
do.
Jetsons, this is going to be Jetsons on steroids.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Do you think that that's a good thing, a bad thing? Are you indifferent by it? How do you feel about technology in the future of work?
You know, I feel good about it. I just hope some of us don't get left behind.
Mm,
And I mean that by the fact that there are some simple jobs that some of us can go out and get. Everyone is not going to go to college, and there are some simple jobs out there that we can go get that's still going to pay us a nice salary. And you talk about technology, technical jobs, there's going to be some type of training, whether it be trade school, whether it be college. And we have to make sure that we're on a level playing field so that everyone has an equal opportunity for these jobs. But I think technology is always a good thing.
Yeah. How do you think, the shifting gears just a little bit, how do you
Mhm.
think that, one of the conversations that we're having a lot when I'm talking to people about the future of work is we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's a big monumental task that
Yes.
is on every company's corporate agenda, right? DE and I, DE and I, D. I mean, it's single handedly probably one of the topics that I get asked about the most, right?
Hmm.
And I'm like, I do workforce. I do contact center. Why I keep getting asked D and I questions? But I oblige, right? So that's one of the things that's a tall task is always being asked about D and I. How do you think that plays a factor into the future of work?
It plays a huge factor into the future of work because where we're headed, we need diversity. We need people to think differently. We
Mm,
need different backgrounds. I mean, my experience coming from the city is different from some of my peers who were born in the country, or some of my peers were born out of the country, in another country. And so I think having those diverse perspectives is so critical for the future. So everyone needs a seat at the table. Every person needs to be represented. And so having that voice and having those cultural differences is going to make a difference on making decisions as we move forward as an organization.
absolutely. I think I'm so glad you brought that point up because when I think about diversity in the as it relates to where its place is in the future of work,
Hmm.
if we take two things into the future of work, which is technology, and we take diversity, equity, and inclusion into the future of work, well, if technology is taking over a vast part of jobs and we're automating things like crazy, if we don't have enough diverse talent, then
Hmm.
we end up with the same type of silos and racial things because those are the people who program in the technology, right? If you're programming the technology, if the people who are programming and creating the programs all think the same, right, are
Absolutely.
all from the same school, all same background,
Absolutely.
then the technology that we get is going to be skewed, is going to have limited perspectives because it
Absolutely.
does not have human experiences that's being programmed into it from varying perspectives and backgrounds.
Absolutely. And you said it best. I mean, when you think about having a culture that's diverse, we're marketing to a diverse world.
Yeah.
So why would you want one group of people marketing to um, a world of people that's diverse? And so that's where those diverse perspectives come in. It's just going to be so important to ensure that everyone has a voice at the table. That's the only way you're going to make sure that you're marketing to the diverse world that we have here.
You know, that makes me think about, again, when I'm talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lot of times I get asked, about diversity, or I get asked about the differences between equity and equality or
Hmm.
inclusion, those different things, because diversity, D and I is such a large, I mean, we even added belonging now. So diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, it's
Hmm.
such a large conversation, right? And it's a conversation that needs to be had. Do you think that there's one component that has more impact than the other? Whether it's the D, the E, the I, is there one component that has more impact than the other, in your opinion?
Inclusion. I mean, I think the inclusion piece. But I think if you're diverse, you're gonna be have inclusion. When you talked about the equity piece, and it's funny because you have to have equity to get to to get to diversity, to get to the equality in the in the I and the E. You have to have that equality. And so, I think of the equity as being, you know, I'm gonna just give a scenario. So I have $5. I have two people here, neither one of them have money. I'm gonna give them each $5. But then when I think about equality and you think about inclusion and equality, well, now I have $5. I mean, I have $10. I have one person who already has $10 and another one who has nothing. I'm going to give the $10 to the other person so that there is equality. So I think we're going to need the equity in order to ensure that we have equality. However, I think inclusion is key. I mean, if you have all of that, making sure you have an inclusive environment is key.
Yeah. Yeah, my personal opinion, right?
Hmm.
And I think everybody, again, this is the point of having diverse conversations, right? Is everybody's going to have varying perspectives. I've heard some
Absolutely.
people say the D is more important, or you can't get to the I without the E, or you can't get to the
Hmm.
E without the D, which
Hmm.
again, we're all saying the same things, right? But I think, inclusion is super important because I've seen companies that are diverse, right? They do have a diverse makeup. Their company is
Uh-huh.
very diverse. But when we start to go higher up the leadership chain, that diversity starts to kind of go away. We all of a sudden ain't really that diverse,
Hmm.
right? So they do have a makeup. If we look at just the percentage of their employees, if we were just looking at the numbers, we would say, yep, they are a diverse company, right?
Hmm.
But then when we start to say, okay, well, what about equity? Where do they belong in this organization?
Hmm.
So are they all frontline employees, or do they actually, have a say anywhere in the, company? And, and,
Perfect.
and one CEO is going to say, somebody's going to say, well, everybody matters. They all have a say. Well, if that's the case, why we don't have
Right.
any
I'm with you.
middle management
Hmm.
leaders or senior leaders that are more diverse? So I think
Hmm.
that's when we start saying, okay, well, do they have a seat at the table? Is it equitable for them to be there? And then I think at the tip of that iceberg would be inclusion, right? Do they
Absolutely.
actually have a voice now at the table? You gave them a seat at
Absolutely.
the table, so you have a diverse environment.
Hmm.
Yeah, they are in middle and senior level leadership, but are they the token? Right?
You
Are
know
they
what?
just the
You're
one
right.
person, and they can't change anything? They're not a change agent, right? And
Hmm.
someone will say, well, you don't lead from your title. You lead from your influencing and what you do. And while I
Hmm.
have been that person who has said that, it's something completely different when I have the title to go with my role that I'm doing. Right. So
Absolutely.
when companies say, well, when leaders say, well, you don't lead from your title, you lead from your place of influence, I 100% agree with that. But if that's also true, right, and we are trying to give me a voice in the company that can impact change, then give me the
Hmm.
title. And then not only the
I
title, but the
completely
pay
with you.
that goes with it.
I am complete. There you go. Because that's the one thing I'm honed in on. And I'm sure you've heard this too. Oh, you're a woman. They meet two statistics when they hire you. You're black and you're a woman. So you have a better chance because I'm a man. So you have a better chance of getting it because you're black and you're a woman. So you've heard that. But you're absolutely correct when you say that I want to be included at the table. And not only do I want to be included at the table, when you tell me that you're meeting the diversity statistics, am I being paid the same as my counterparts of different race, of different gender? Am I getting the same bonuses? So that plays a huge part. Don't just bring me in because I'm diverse, and now you're going to tell me I'm included. So I'm inclusion. I'm a part of the discussion. I'm at the table, but while I'm sitting at the table and I look to my left and I look to my right, I want to make sure that it's really equal, and I'm getting the same benefits as my counterparts that's at the
Absolutely.
table too. Hmm.
Yeah. And so I think companies are doing, at a place, we're at a very critical place where diversity is bubbling up, D&I is bubbling up. We're having a lot of great conversation about it,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of real honest, raw conversation about it. But I think in order to really kind of move that needle forward, we need a lot more transparency around DE&I initiatives, metrics, and information that's happening, or initiatives that's happening in organizations, which is
Hmm.
one of the reasons I love Diversity Windows. So that episode that I did with the CEO, Jaquanda Nelson, over at
Hmm.
Diversity Window, I love that they go into companies and, okay, so let's see the numbers. Let's help you
There you
develop
go.
your programs. Let's see what
Absolutely.
your employees think around, do they feel included? Do they feel like it's
Absolutely.
their enroll or their environment is equitable for them? Do they feel right? Because truth, my dad used to say this all the time, truth is true to the person who's perceiving it.
I love it.
Right? So it don't
I
matter
love it.
what you think. If I'm the person who's in the role, right, and
I
I'm telling
agree.
you this is not equitable for me, I don't feel included, or this is not diverse. I'm looking to my left, I'm
Hmm.
looking to my right, and I'm looking like, hey, this is not diverse.
Absolutely.
Then you as a CEO or the chief of diversity, DNI,
Hmm.
may be saying, yeah, we're doing all this great work. Meanwhile, on the front line, your employees are saying, where?
Exactly.
Where is it happening?
Exactly.
You know?
And you made a comment, and I want to ask you to elaborate on that. You said a lot of work is being done, a lot of conversations are being had. Where are those conversations being had? Now, I think there's a lot of work being done. A lot of courses. There are some meetings. There are ERG groups. So there's a lot of work being done. But I'm going to say this: conversations are still very difficult, and I don't. People are not comfortable having that conversation. And how many times have you been told, don't talk about race, don't talk about religion? I think we've been taught not to have those conversations. And so now everyone is saying, it's okay. Let's talk about it. And I think a lot of people are just uncomfortable having those conversations. I do agree. A lot of work is being done, but we need to have more conversations about
I agree. When I say a lot of conversations are being had,
it. Uh-huh.
what I'm saying is that they're putting it on their mission for their, year's goal. Like,
Yes,
hey,
they
we are
are.
going to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Hmm.
Right now, whether they're having open forum conversations about it, or whether they're, making their employees feel comfortable about it, they're putting it
Hmm.
on their board to at least say, hey, this is something we need to address.
I
Right.
agree.
So I
I
think
completely
when I
agree.
say a lot of conversations, what I mean to articulate is that companies are, I think, more aware that they are not as diverse as they think they are. And
Hmm.
I don't really think it's even because of their doing. I think that their employees, right, amid a great resignation, right, and their consumers, so their employees and the consumers that are buying from them are saying,
Hmm.
hey, we want to shop with companies that are more socially
Absolutely.
aware. We want to work for companies that are more socially aware. That's what the consumer base and the employee base is saying. And so
You're right.
now, as a company, I have to put this as a mission, because that's
Hmm.
how I'm going to get employees and that's how I'm going to get customers. Is
You are
if I
right.
have to show myself as a company socially aware. And so now more and more companies are saying, hey, we have to be socially aware about things that are happening around us. And as a byproduct of that, I think them merely putting it on their mission statement is driving and fueling conversations.
I completely agree. I
But I do
completely agree with you.
100% agree that, it's still a very difficult conversation to have.
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
myself, is still a very difficult conversation to have, because what happens, especially for people who are diverse, right? The
Hmm.
people who, they may be Indian, they may be Asian, they may be a part of the LGBT community,
Absolutely.
right? They may be African American, they may be whatever, right? If we have these conversations, then it's almost like victim shaming. It's like, well, all you're talking about is, race, or all you're talking
Yes,
about is this. And diversity is such a larger conversation than just race,
it
right? When we're
is.
talking about diversity, we're both African American females, right? But we're
Hmm.
still diverse. Your background is completely different than my background.
Absolutely.
Your
Absolutely.
education is completely different than my education. My perspectives are going to be completely different than your perspectives. So we're not just
Absolutely.
talking
You're right.
about race, we're talking about education, we're talking about background, we're talking about varying perspectives, leadership styles. We're talking about diversity from so many different perspectives. But I feel when diverse people talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? If I were to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that was my whole thing, right? People be like,
Hmm.
I'm so tired of this girl. Okay.
No, they wouldn't. No one gets tired of you, Juanita. No, that's not true.
So, those are my thoughts. I love that you said, so I have another question for you. So
Sure.
we have this segment, Val, it's called Shots Fired. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
So we have this segment called Shots Fired. You ready for it?
Not really, but I know you're going to hit me with it anyway.
Okay, okay. All right,
Okay.
listen. So I'm going to say two words. And when I say the two words, you're going to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Just, okay, just random give me the thoughts that pop
Okay.
to mind, okay?
Hmm.
All right, you ready?
Okay.
Okay.
I think so.
First word, equity and equality.
We need equity to get to equality.
Okay, okay. All right. Next word, DE&I and affirmative action.
Affirmative action, in my mind, deals with demographics, where DE&I is more about being inclusive and building the culture around an inclusive culture.
Okay. Great resignation and employee experience.
If you don't have employee experience, great resignation is going to continue to happen. So one drives the other.
Very, very true. Very good. Very good. Very
Mhm,
good. Very good.
mhm.
All
That was
right.
fun.
I love shots fired because these are buzzwords. The reason that made me think about shots fired as a thing to do, right,
Hmm.
was we hear these words buzzing around the industry, right?
Yeah.
D&I, affirmative action, equity,
Hmm.
equality, great resignation, customer experience, employee
Right.
experience. We hear these words and in true D&I fashion, everybody has a different
Very true.
thought process on it. Everybody has a different, and so I think we're having, again, back to my thing, right? We're having lots of conversations, but because we haven't really, kind of honed in on what that is, I think our movement is very slow crawling, right? Like it's
Hmm.
moving forward. I was doing one interview, I don't remember who it was with, but they were saying, hey, at the rate we're going with getting women involved in technology, so you all know that one of the things that I'm super passionate about is getting women involved in technology
Yes.
and normalizing women in leadership roles. And they were saying they had read a study that it would be 2090
Oh my goodness.
before, at the rate we're going, there was a report that had came out. They were saying it would be 2090 before we got to the same level of where men are in technology, and that blew my mind,
That's
right?
amazing.
And all of the conversation, all of the things that we're doing, it's going to take to 2090 to get to that level of level playing field, which means if it takes that amount of time, then that's the amount of time it's going to take for income to level
Right.
out. That's what the amount of
Hmm.
time it's going to take for us to get to diverse, environments,
You're right.
all those
You're
things,
right.
because it's so slow crawling. But again, I do agree that work is being done. I think Uber's doing an amazing job with their ERG groups, their
Hmm.
employee resource groups.
Yeah.
It's so many companies, that are doing amazing things. Five9 is doing amazing things. Televerde is doing amazing things. I'm super excited to hear about some of the things that you guys are doing, what you're doing as a leader, Val, to kind of really push that needle forward around not
Sure.
only diversity, equity, inclusion, but making sure that women are involved in leadership. And what are some
Hmm.
of those things that you're doing today?
You know what? I'm going to say I have to give kudos to Best Buy when it comes to really taking a step on making sure we have more women in the workforce. And so, we have the ERGs as well, and several different ERGs. And not only do we encourage you to go to an ERG that you're interested in, but we encourage you to go to other ERGs so that you can learn about others. Don't just come like I don't just want to go to the African American ERG. I want to go to other ERGs so that I can understand my employee base and my employee population. And so I have to say they do a good job at the ERGs. Another thing that they have something that's called a New Wave program. That program is focused on bringing in diversity, more so African American women. And so they're putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to looking for talent, being very very intentional about the people they bring in. Now, of course, we're not bringing in people that aren't experienced to do the job, but they're intentional about going after a particular base of people to make sure that there is equity. And so I'm just so excited about that. I have to say I commend them for that. To talk about what I do in my career, I look at my career as it spanned over the last 40 years, and I look at who helped me.
Mm.
How did I get here? And I didn't get here because I was wonderful. I was fabulous. I mean, of course, I believe in the man above, and I know he had a lot to do with it. But there were people who saw something in me, and they helped me. And so I want to be that same person. I see something in someone, I want to help them. And I take special care and pay special attention to women. And I'm very intentional about making sure that we get the training we need. We get coaching. Oftentimes you sit in a room and you watch someone do something in your mind, all you're thinking is, wow, they could do that better. Coach and develop them. Coach them. It
Yes.
doesn't matter whether you report to me or not. Let's spend the time to give feedback, to coach, to mentor. And so those are some of the things that I'm doing and that I open myself up to. Is let me help you like someone helped me.
Yes.
Because that's what we need in order to move up the corporate ladder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is, I love your last point about, let me help you like someone helped me.
Hmm.
That's one of the main reasons. That's one of the reasons Solid Rock exists is, when I said, hey, when I looked around and I surveyed the land and said, man, there's just not enough women involved in technology.
I
There are
love
not
it.
enough women involved in leadership roles. I could have said, man, these companies need to do something about it. Instead, my action was, I'll be the company that does
I
something
love
about
it.
it. Right.
I
And
love it.
so it's been a tall task.
I love it.
It has been a tall task for sure, right? But we're specifically focused on making sure that we are, I hate to say grooming women, but we are helping develop leaders. We're helping women get involved and experience in technology. And so that's why we're always looking for companies to partner with, to say,
Hmm.
hey, let's be a hiring partner. We're in the community already doing the work. We're looking for
I love
women who
it.
we can come, that we can train, get them involved in contact center, get them involved in technology, because that's the only way that we're going to take them into the future of work. And unless we have more companies start to be very intentional about saying, yes, we're a huge company and
Hmm.
we have the dollar to, run all these D&I initiatives, let's partner
Yes.
with some smaller companies, right? That actually have boots on the ground and can do some of the actual work that we need them to do anyway, right? You're
Love it.
hiring vendors and contractors anyway. Hire some of the smaller businesses that are working to help fulfill some of these DEI initiatives. So that's actually one of the reasons that we actually exist, is to get more women involved in technology and leadership roles. So that's pretty cool,
I
and so
commend you. I commend you for that because that could not have been an easy task.
no.
So to see that there was a need and for you to step out there and take this on, I mean, hats off to you. Just I give you mad respect.
Thank you. Thank you so,
Hmm.
so much. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
So tell me, I know we've been talking. I knew this was going to happen. I knew we was going to get to talking and it was just going to be,
You know
right.
how it
So
goes.
I knew it was going to be a good show. Listen, tell me what's next for Best Buy. What's next for Val? Where can people find you? Tell us more about what's next for you.
What's next for me is I want to continue to create a space where I can be of help. I if there's a mentorship or anything that I can help in, I'm always willing to help young ladies, young men, anyone growing their careers. So I'll say that. Best Buy, I mean, we're going to continue to do what we do. I mean, our goal this year is to enrich lives through technologies. And that's technology, that's what's important. So we're going to continue to enrich lives through technology, making sure that no matter where you visit us, no matter what that touch point is, if it's the store, if it's the call center, if it's an in home, no matter where we are, that we're going to be enriching the lives of our customers. And so, what's next for me at Best Buy? Hopefully, the next time that we have a meeting, hopefully, who knows? Maybe it would be nice to have a title change. So yeah, I'm going to keep striving for that. But in the meantime, I'm fulfilled with what I do, and I enjoy things like this where there's a platform for people to say and see that you can do it. You have some support, and I can be reached on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and I welcome anyone to reach out to me on LinkedIn and let's have a conversation. Let's talk.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Val, thank you so much for the show today. It was
Thank
amazing.
you.
It's always great to talk to you. I feel like I just go up another level every time I talk to you. Like it's
You
like,
know,
my price just
I
went
ha-
up.
mine did, and I have to say this. I know we're closing out the show, but the first time I met you, I knew you were dynamic.
Oh, thank you so much.
Within 3 minutes, I knew you were dynamic. And again, I love everything that you're doing here. If there's ever anything you need from me, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hang out with me in the green room. I'm going to wrap the show and then I'm going to come
Okay.
over to you. Okay.
Look forward to it.
All right.
Thank you.
Listen, I love this show. I don't know if it's just me. People say, content creators say all the time, don't create content for you, create content for your audience. And while I think that is important, I create content that I enjoy because I love having these conversations. Like, this is so important. I think the more we have these conversations, the more we show up, then the more, we're visible. Right? The more we're visible, the more we're able to impact change. I loved Val's show when she talks, especially about, how technology is moving into the future of work and how that's going to change the dynamic of not only who's doing the work, where they're doing it, how they're doing the work. Like, I never heard anybody really break it down into those three categories, but I'm telling you, I'm going to be stealing that. Okay. So I'm putting that on a meme somewhere, and that's what the future of work now means for me. Okay. I loved how we talked about, diversity, how that is important going into the future of work, right? The more diverse you have, diversity, equity, and inclusion you have, and that goes into the future of work, especially with technology being such a big, component of the future of work. If the people aren't diverse that's programming the technology, or that's training the technology, or that's, selling the technology, then you get diverse technology. So it's so important. Diversity has a place in the future of work. Okay. Technology has a place in the future of work. And so I got so much from the show. I am full. And I hope that you are too. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure that if you're catching this on replay, you let me know you caught it on replay. Okay. If you caught it live, make sure you chime in. Give me some comments. I want to know your feedback on some of the things that we talked about today. All right. Until next time, guys. See y'all soon. Bye.